Stop being lazy. How to build monk-like self-control. Chapter 1. The lie of laziness and the real reason you don't take action. Laziness is one of the most misunderstood labels in human behavior. It is thrown around casually, used as an insult, and often internalized as a permanent flaw. People say, "I'm lazy," as if it were a fixed identity, a personality defect written into their DNA. This belief is not only wrong, it is destructive. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people are not lazy. They are untrained, undisciplined, overstimulated, emotionally overwhelmed, mentally fragmented, and conditioned by an environment designed to weaken self-control. This book begins by dismantling the myth of laziness, because as long as you believe laziness is who you are, you will never build the self-control you desire. Identity dictates behavior. If you see yourself as lazy, your actions will quietly conform to that belief. Monk-like self-control does not come from willpower alone. It comes from understanding the real forces that drain your energy, sabotage your focus, and hijack your behavior. Before you can build discipline, you must first remove the false story that you are broken. Why laziness is a lazy explanation. Calling yourself lazy is an easy explanation. It requires no investigation, no responsibility, no analysis. It ends the conversation prematurely. But the 1% and monks, warriors, and disciplined individuals throughout history do not accept shallow explanations. They ask deeper questions. If laziness were real, it would mean you avoid effort in all areas of life. You never work hard for anything. You lack the capacity for focus entirely. But this is rarely true. People who claim to be lazy can spend hours scrolling social media. They can binge-watch shows for entire weekends. They can research hobbies obsessively. They can work intensely when deadlines scare them. This is not laziness. This is misdirected energy. You are not lacking energy. You are lacking control over where that energy goes. The modern world is designed to destroy self-control. Monk-like discipline was not developed in an environment of constant stimulation. Monks lived in structured environments with limited distractions, predictable routines, and clear values. Modern life is the opposite. You are surrounded by infinite entertainment, instant dopamine, constant notifications, algorithm-driven temptation, comfort on demand, no enforced structure. Your brain did not evolve for this. Self-control is a limited resource. When it is constantly drained by distractions, decisions, and emotional noise, what looks like laziness is actually decision fatigue and dopamine burnout. The modern world rewards impulse and punishes patience. So when you struggle to focus, start, or persist, it is not because you are weak. It is because you are untrained in a hostile environment. The hidden enemy, dopamine dependence. At the center of laziness lies dopamine misuse. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical, it is the motivation chemical. It tells your brain what is worth pursuing. When dopamine is constantly triggered by easy, high-stimulation activities, your brain rewires itself to avoid effort. Effort feels painful. Boredom feels unbearable. Stillness feels uncomfortable. This is why starting tasks feels heavy. This is why procrastination feels automatic. This is why discipline feels exhausting before you even begin. Your brain has learned that effort is optional and stimulation is guaranteed. Monk-like self-control requires reversing this conditioning. Why motivation fails and discipline works. Most people wait to feel motivated before acting. This is backwards. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. Discipline is structural. It remains. Monks do not wake up motivated every day. They wake up committed. Their actions are anchored to identity, values, and routine, not mood. If your system depends on motivation, you will fail consistently. If your system depends on structure, you will succeed regardless of mood. This is a core principle of monk-like self-control. You do not negotiate with your feelings. You act according to your standards. The role of identity in self-control. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline, someone who procrastinates, someone who lacks consistency, your actions will unconsciously reinforce that identity. Monks train identity before behavior. They see themselves as disciplined beings. Order becomes natural. Impulse becomes irrelevant. This book will help you shift from "I need to be disciplined" to "I am a disciplined person who sometimes feels resistance." That distinction changes everything. Resistance is not a signal to stop. One of the greatest lies laziness tells you is that resistance means something is wrong. Resistance is normal. Discomfort is expected. Boredom is part of mastery. Monks do not eliminate resistance. They befriend it. They sit through discomfort without reacting. They allow boredom without escaping. They train the mind to remain still while the urge to flee passes. This is self-control at its core. The ability to stay present without seeking relief. The real definition of self-control. Self-control is not harshness. It is not punishment. It is not self-hatred. True self-control is self-respect in action. It is choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. It is honoring commitments even when emotions fluctuate. It is acting from principle, not impulse. Monk-like self-control is calm, not aggressive. Quiet, not dramatic. Consistent, not intense. Intensity burns out. Consistency transforms. Why you must stop calling yourself lazy. Every time you call yourself lazy, you weaken your future discipline. You create a narrative that excuses avoidance. You reinforce an identity that resists effort. You lower the standard of what you believe is possible. Replace the word lazy with truth. I am overstimulated. I lack structure. I have trained my brain poorly. I haven't learned self-control yet. These statements contain possibility. Lazy does not. The monk's advantage, simplicity and structure. Monks succeed because their lives are simple. Not easy, simple. Few choices. Clear routines. Defined values. Minimal distractions. You do not need to live in a monastery to apply this principle. You need intentional structure. Structure reduces decision-making. Decision-making drains self-control. Less decisions equals more discipline. This book will show you how to simplify your environment, reduce temptation, create rituals that make discipline automatic, train your mind to tolerate discomfort, build calm, unbreakable consistency, the commitment that changes everything. Monk-like self-control begins with one internal commitment. I will stop waiting to feel ready. I will act according to who I choose to become. You do not need more motivation. You need less negotiation. Every time you negotiate with discomfort, you weaken discipline. Every time you act despite discomfort, you strengthen it. What this book will help you become. By the end of this book, you will not just try harder. You will think differently. You will understand why your brain resists effort, how to retrain it without force, how to build discipline calmly and permanently, how to stop fighting yourself, how to become someone who acts without inner chaos. This is not about becoming extreme. It is about becoming stable. And stability is power. Chapter 2, Stillness Before Strength. Training the mind like a monk. Before monks build discipline in action, they build discipline in stillness. This is one of the most overlooked truths about self-control. Most people try to force productivity without first mastering their mind. They attempt to control behavior while their thoughts remain chaotic, restless, and impulsive. This is why effort feels exhausting. A restless mind drains energy faster than any physical task. Monk-like self-control begins with the ability to sit still internally, to remain present without reacting, escaping, or distracting yourself. Stillness is not weakness. It is the foundation of strength. Until you can control your attention, you cannot control your actions. Why your mind resists stillness. The modern mind is addicted to stimulation. Silence feels uncomfortable. Boredom feels threatening. Stillness feels like deprivation. This is not because something is wrong with you. It is because your nervous system has been conditioned to constant input. Your brain has learned. Silence equals boredom. Boredom equals discomfort. Discomfort equals escape. So the moment stimulation stops, your mind looks for relief. This is why. You check your phone without thinking. You procrastinate when tasks feel dull. You feel restless when nothing is happening. Monks train the opposite response. They learn. Silence equals clarity. Boredom equals training. Discomfort equals growth. This reversal is the core of monk-like discipline. Stillness is active training, not passive rest. Stillness is not doing nothing. Stillness is not reacting. When a monk sits in silence, the mind does not suddenly become peaceful. Thoughts arise. Urges appear. Discomfort grows. The training happens when the monk does not obey these impulses. This is how self-control is built. Every time you resist the urge to escape discomfort, you strengthen your mental spine. Stillness teaches you that thoughts do not require action. Urges rise and fall on their own. Discomfort is temporary. You are not controlled by sensation. This is the opposite of laziness. This is discipline at its root. Why action without stillness fails? Most people attempt to fix laziness by pushing harder, forcing productivity, creating aggressive schedules, using guilt or pressure, relying on bursts of motivation. This fails because the mind remains untrained. Without stillness, focus collapses quickly. Discomfort feels overwhelming. Procrastination returns stronger. Burnout becomes inevitable. Monks reverse the order. Mind first. Action second. Once the mind is trained to remain steady, action becomes calm, consistent, and sustainable. The discipline of attention. Attention is the gateway to self-control. Where attention goes, behavior follows. If your attention is constantly hijacked by thoughts, emotions, notifications, cravings, you are not lazy. You are unfocused. Monks train attention deliberately. They do not fight thoughts. They observe them. They do not chase distractions. They let them pass. This creates a crucial gap. The space between impulse and action. Inside that space lives freedom. The monk's relationship with discomfort. Discomfort is the training ground of discipline. Most people avoid discomfort reflexively. They seek relief immediately. Phones, food, entertainment, and distractions are used as anesthetic. Monks do the opposite. They sit with discomfort. They breathe through it. They allow it without resistance. This teaches the nervous system that discomfort is not dangerous. Once your brain learns this, discipline stops feeling threatening. You no longer need escape. You no longer need avoidance. You no longer need procrastination. Stillness rewires the brain. Neuroscience confirms what monks have known for centuries. Stillness reduces impulsivity, strengthens focus, improves emotional regulation, increases tolerance for boredom, restores dopamine sensitivity. When you practice stillness consistently, your brain becomes less reactive and more intentional. This is why monks appear calm and controlled, not because life is easier, but because their minds are trained. How to practice monk-like stillness without meditation obsession. This book is not asking you to become spiritual or mystical. Stillness is practical. Here are monk-style stillness practices you can apply immediately. 1. Sit without stimulation. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes. Sit quietly. No phone. No music. No distractions. Your job is not to relax. Your job is to stay. Thoughts will arise. Urges will appear. Restlessness will grow. Do nothing. This trains non-reactivity. 2. Delay relief. When you feel the urge to escape, checking your phone, getting a snack, switching tasks, delay it by 60 seconds. This tiny delay builds massive self-control over time. 3. Observe the urge. Instead of obeying urges, label them. This is restlessness. This is boredom. This is discomfort. Labeling creates distance. Distance creates control. 4. Finish small discomforts. Complete small tasks without seeking relief. Finish reading one page. Sit through one uncomfortable moment. Complete one boring step fully. This retrains your brain to associate completion with calm, not relief. Why stillness makes discipline easier, not harder. When the mind becomes still, tasks feel lighter. Resistance weakens. Focus increases. Action feels natural. You stop fighting yourself. Monk-like discipline is not aggressive. It is effortless strength. Effortlessness does not come from ease. It comes from mastery. Stillness builds internal authority. One of the greatest benefits of stillness is authority over yourself. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" You ask, "What needs to be done?" And you act without drama. This is self-respect in motion. Why most people never build this skill? Stillness offers no instant reward. No dopamine hit. No validation. It feels boring at first. It feels uncomfortable. It feels pointless. That is exactly why it works. Discipline grows in silence. The shift that changes everything. The moment you stop trying to feel motivated and start training your ability to stay still, your entire relationship with effort changes. You stop chasing productivity. You stop forcing discipline. You stop fighting resistance. You become steady. And steady people are unstoppable. Chapter 3. The Power of Structure. Why Discipline Thrives on Routine. Discipline is not created through constant decision-making. It is created by removing decisions altogether. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about self-control. Most people believe disciplined individuals are better at forcing themselves to act. In reality, they are better at structuring their environment and routines so action becomes automatic. Monks understand this deeply. They do not rely on motivation. They do not negotiate with themselves. They do not wake up each day asking what they feel like doing. They follow structure. And structure creates freedom. Why laziness is often decision fatigue. If you constantly feel tired, unfocused, or resistant to simple tasks, it is rarely because you lack willpower. More often, your mind is exhausted from too many choices. Every question drains energy. Should I start now or later? Which task should I do first? Should I rest or push? Should I check my phone or focus? Each decision pulls from the same mental battery. By the time real work begins, your discipline is already depleted. This is why monks eliminate unnecessary choice. Structure is a form of self-respect. Structure is not rigid punishment. Structure is care for your future self. When your day has a predictable rhythm, you conserve mental energy. You reduce inner resistance. You eliminate procrastination triggers. You remove emotional negotiation. A structured life tells your mind, you are safe. You know what comes next. And a calm mind obeys more easily. Why monks repeat the same actions daily? From the outside, a monk's life looks repetitive. From the inside, it is deeply freeing. Repetition builds consistency, trains obedience to routine, reduces ego-driven impulses, strengthens identity. When actions repeat, they become who you are, not something you try to do. Discipline stops feeling like effort. It becomes habit, the hidden cost of an unstructured life. An unstructured day creates constant friction. You wake up uncertain. You drift between tasks. You delay starting. You overthink. You quit early. You seek stimulation. You feel behind. This cycle repeats daily. Not because you are lazy, but because your mind has no rails. Structure provides those rails. Why freedom without structure leads to weakness. Many people resist structure because they associate it with restriction. But unstructured freedom often leads to overindulgence. inconsistency, procrastination, emotional decision-making, loss of momentum. True freedom comes from self-mastery, not endless options. Monks choose limitation so they can act without friction. The monk's rule: same time, same order. One of the most powerful discipline principles monks use is this: do important things at the same time, in the same order, every day. This removes hesitation. When something has a place in your routine, it no longer competes with distractions. It simply happens. Routine reprograms identity. Every repeated action sends a signal to the brain. This is who I am. When you act with discipline daily, even in small ways, you stop seeing yourself as lazy. You begin to identify as someone who follows through, someone who finishes, someone who does not negotiate with impulses. Identity change is stronger than motivation. Why starting is the hardest part. The mind resists beginnings. Not because the task is difficult, but because uncertainty triggers discomfort. Structure removes uncertainty. When you know what to do, when to do it, how long it lasts, the mind relaxes. Starting becomes easy. Building your personal monk routine. You do not need a complicated system. Monks use simplicity. Here is how to apply this to your life. 1. Fix your wake-up time. Wake up at the same time daily, even on rest days. Consistency trains your nervous system. Irregular waking weakens discipline at its core. 2. Create a non-negotiable morning anchor. Choose one action you perform every morning. Stillness practice, writing, reading, light movement. This anchors the day in discipline. 3. Assign time blocks, not mood-based tasks. Do not wait to feel ready. Assign tasks to time slots. When the time arrives, action begins. No debate. 4. End your day the same way. A consistent shutdown ritual. Reflection. Preparation for tomorrow. Stillness. This creates closure and mental calm. Why small routines beat extreme plans. Extreme schedules collapse quickly. Monks favor modest effort, daily repetition, long-term consistency. Small routines compound quietly. Discipline grows without struggle. Structure reduces emotional noise. When your day is structured, mood matters less. Motivation becomes irrelevant. Discipline remains steady. You act because it is time, not because you feel inspired. This is true control. The difference between force and flow. Force relies on energy. Flow relies on structure. Force burns out. Flow sustains. Monks do not push themselves endlessly. They move with rhythm. And rhythm outlasts intensity. The ultimate benefit of structure. Structure creates inner peace. When you know your day is handled, anxiety drops, focus sharpens, confidence grows, self-trust strengthens. You stop fearing your own inconsistency. You become reliable to yourself. The quiet transformation. At first, structure feels artificial. Then it feels supportive. Then it feels necessary. Eventually, it feels natural. And one day you realize something has changed. You no longer struggle to be disciplined. You simply are. Chapter 4. Mastering Impulse Control. How monks defeat urges before they take over. Laziness is rarely about a lack of ability. It is about obedience to impulse. Most people are not ruled by logic or long-term vision. They are ruled by whatever urge speaks the loudest in the moment. The monk understands something most people never learn. You do not eliminate impulses. You weaken them, and you strengthen the part of you that does not obey them. This chapter is about that mastery. Why impulses feel so powerful. An impulse is simply a signal from the nervous system seeking immediate comfort, stimulation, or relief. The problem is not that impulses exist. The problem is that most people identify with them. When an urge arises, they believe, "This is me. I need this. I'll feel better if I obey." Monks do not see impulses as commands. They see them as weather passing through the mind. and weather never lasts forever. The fatal mistake: fighting impulses directly. Most people try to defeat urges with force, suppressing, resisting aggressively, shaming themselves, declaring war on temptation. This almost always backfires. Why? Because what you fight, you energize. Monks take a different approach. They observe without reacting. The monk's first skill: separation. The foundation of impulse control is separation. You are not your urge. You are the one aware of the urge. That gap, however small, is where self-control lives. The moment you say internally, "There is an urge happening," instead of, "I want this," you regain power. Awareness weakens impulses instantly. Why urges peak and collapse? Impulses follow a predictable pattern. They rise. They peak. They fall. Most people give in at the peak. Monks wait. They know that if they do nothing, the urge loses momentum. This is not denial. This is patience. And patience starves impulse of fuel. The 90-second rule of urges. Neuroscience confirms what monks discovered centuries ago. An urge rarely lasts longer than 90 seconds if not fed. When you stop fantasizing, stop justifying, stop negotiating, the chemical wave passes. Discipline is often just waiting without acting. Stillness is a weapon. Monks train stillness deliberately. When the body stays calm, the nervous system settles, emotional urgency drops, rational control returns. Stillness is not passive. It is dominance over reflex. A still body teaches the mind restraint. Why comfort weakens self-control? Comfort trains obedience to impulse. When every urge is satisfied immediately, the brain expects reward. Resistance feels painful. Delay feels unbearable. Monks voluntarily practice mild discomfort. Silence. Simplicity. Delayed gratification. Not to suffer, but to build tolerance. Discomfort becomes familiar. Impulse loses authority. Training delay. The core discipline skill. The ability to delay gratification is the backbone of self-control. Monks practice delay in small ways. Waiting before eating. Pausing before speaking. Sitting before acting. Delay creates space. Space creates choice. Choice creates mastery. Why your environment fuels impulses. Impulse control is not just internal, it is environmental. Monks remove triggers. No excess stimulation. No constant novelty. No chaotic surroundings. A clean, quiet environment reduces urge frequency. Self-control becomes easier when temptation is distant. Designing an anti-impulse environment. You can apply this immediately. Remove distractions from your workspace. Limit easy-access indulgences. Create physical boundaries for focus. Discipline improves when temptation requires effort. Distance weakens desire. The identity shift that changes everything. The strongest form of impulse control is identity. Monks do not say, "I am trying to resist." They say, "I am not someone who obeys impulses." Identity removes inner debate. When behavior aligns with identity, discipline feels natural. Impulse versus intention. Every moment presents a choice. Short-term comfort. Long-term intention. Monks anchor themselves to intention. They ask silently, "Does this strengthen or weaken my discipline?" This question dissolves temptation. Why fatigue lowers self-control? Impulse control weakens when you are exhausted, you are overstimulated, you are emotionally overloaded. Monks prioritize rest and simplicity for a reason. A rested mind resists easily. A tired mind obeys urges. Silence trains control. Silence is discipline training. When you sit in silence, thoughts arise, urges appear, boredom surfaces, and you do nothing. This conditions the mind to observe without reacting. Silence is impulse resistance practice, the long game of self-control. Monks do not aim for perfection. They aim for consistency. Each time you notice an urge, Pause. Choose restraint. You strengthen neural pathways of control. Discipline compounds quietly. You will fail, and that's normal. Even monks fail. What matters is not the failure, but the response. Failure is information, not identity. Return to awareness. Return to structure. Return to restraint. Each return builds mastery. The calm power of restraint. Eventually, something changes. Urges still appear, but they feel distant. Temptation loses urgency. Reaction slows. You begin to trust yourself, and that trust becomes strength. The monk's secret. Self-control is not aggression. It is calm authority. You do not shout at impulses. You simply do not obey them. Chapter 5. Unbreakable Focus. How monks train the mind to single task like a laser. Discipline is nothing without focus. Laziness is often a symptom of scattered attention, not lack of energy or willpower. Most people believe they are multitasking, but science proves multitasking is a myth. Every switch of attention reduces efficiency, drains energy, and strengthens procrastination habit. Monks understand this intuitively. They do not attempt to do everything at once. They do one thing at a time, perfectly, with full presence. This single-minded attention is what makes their discipline appear effortless. In this chapter, we explore the mechanics, neuroscience, and daily practices of monk-like focus, and how you can transform your scattered mind into a powerhouse of attention and productivity. Why attention is the true currency of discipline. Think about it. You have a finite amount of attention each day. Energy is consumed by not only physical activity, but by mental fragmentation. When your attention is dispersed across multiple tasks, you finish nothing. You feel overwhelmed. Motivation collapses. Laziness appears inevitable. Monks treat attention as sacred. Every task, thought, and movement is directed deliberately. This is the key distinction. Discipline multiplies when attention is concentrated. The myth of multitasking. Our culture glorifies multitasking. Checking emails while writing. Watching TV while scrolling social media. Studying while chatting. Each switch triggers cognitive fatigue, creating the illusion of busyness while actually reducing output. Monks reject multitasking entirely. They create blocks of undivided attention. The brain rewards deep work, and mastery arises when you invest fully in one task at a time. Why laziness feels strong when focus is weak. Laziness often manifests as procrastination, distraction, endless delays, mental resistance. The reason is simple. The brain avoids tasks that demand energy when attention is fragmented. When you lack a system for sustained focus, even simple actions feel overwhelming. This is why so many people label themselves lazy. The truth: you are not lazy. You are scattered. The monk's principle: depth over breadth. Monks prioritize depth over breadth in everything. One thought fully considered. One task fully completed. One movement performed with awareness. Depth allows compounding. Each small action is precise. Progress is measurable. Confidence grows naturally. Breadth creates chaos, undermining discipline. How to build a focus routine. Focus is a skill, not an innate trait. Monks train it daily through practice. Here are practical strategies. 1. The anchor task. Choose one priority task per day. Everything else is secondary. Begin with this task before email, notifications, or minor chores. Treat it as sacred. No interruptions, no negotiation. Focus energy flows where it is directed consistently. 2. Time blocking. Assign strict windows of time for single task execution. Example: 8 to 9:30, deep work block. 9:30 to 10 o'clock, brief movement and reset. 10 to 11:30, focused project work. Time-bound work reduces mental chaos and decision fatigue. 3. Single tasking mindset. Remove all cues for distraction. Silence notifications. Close irrelevant tabs. Create a clutter-free environment. Single tasking allows the mind to enter flow, where productivity skyrockets naturally. 4. Observe mental wandering. Distraction is inevitable. The monk does not resist it aggressively. Instead, notice the wandering. Label it, thinking about email. Gently return attention to the task. This strengthens neural pathways for attention control over time. 5. Use breath as focus anchor. Monks often use breathing to stabilize attention. Even 2 minutes of conscious breathing before starting a task reduces mental chatter, anchors presence, improves clarity and focus. The science behind focus. Cognitive research confirms. Multitasking reduces IQ. Distractions increase cortisol, stress hormone. Deep, focused work releases dopamine in controlled bursts. Focus training rewires the prefrontal cortex for better decision-making. Focus is not optional, it is neurological optimization. Why motivation is secondary. Discipline is often mistaken for motivation, but monks understand. Motivation is temporary. Focus is deliberate. Consistent action beats inconsistent inspiration. You do not wait to feel focus. You train the mind to be present, and focus follows action. The role of energy management. Even with skill, attention is limited by physical and mental energy. Monks regulate sleep, nutrition, movement, breaks. Energy fuels focus. Without it, discipline collapses. How to combat mental fatigue. Strategies. Short breaks between deep work block. Mindful movement. Hydration and light nutrition. Meditation or stillness exercises. Fatigue weakens focus. Regular recovery restores it. The identity shift. Discipline is identity-aligned attention. I am someone who focuses fully on what matters. I do not allow distraction to dictate my actions. I complete what I start. Identity reinforces behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. This is the monk-like cycle of unbreakable focus. The reward of focused action. When you act with complete attention, progress accelerates, confidence strengthens, mental clarity deepens, resistance diminishes. Focus transforms ordinary action into extraordinary result. Laziness cannot survive in a mind trained to concentrate. Practical exercise to start today. Pick one high-priority task. Remove all distractions. Set a timer for 45 to 60 minutes. Observe urges and distractions without reacting. Return to the task consistently until the timer ends. Repeat daily. Within weeks, the mind naturally resists distraction. Discipline becomes effortless. Conclusion: why focus is the keystone. Monks build self-control one attention block at a time. Discipline is a natural consequence of consistent, deep focus. The more you strengthen your attention, the less laziness can manifest. Chapter 6: Habit Mastery. How monks turn discipline into unstoppable momentum. Discipline is fragile. Motivation is fleeting. Focus alone can be exhausted. If you want monk-like self-control that lasts, you must harness the power of habit. Habits are the bridge between short-term action and long-term identity. They automate behavior, reduce decision fatigue, and allow your mind to conserve energy for the moments that matter most. Monks do not rely on brute force or willpower alone. They create systems of repetition and ritual that embed discipline into daily life until it becomes effortless. This is the essence of habit mastery. Why habits are more powerful than motivation. Motivation is emotional, unreliable, and temporary. Habits are structural. They are self-sustaining. When a habit is embedded, you no longer debate starting. You do not negotiate with impulses. You act automatically, aligned with your goals. Monks understand this principle intuitively. They structure life so that important behaviors occur without conscious effort. Discipline becomes inevitable. The habit loop, cue action reward. Every habit follows a pattern. Cue a what triggers the behavior. Action the behavior itself. Reward the payoff that reinforces it. To build monk-like discipline, you must engineer each part of the loop consciously. 1. Recognize your cues. Cues are everywhere. Time of day. Emotions, boredom, stress, fatigue. Environment, messy desk, notifications, music. People, friends, coworkers, family. Monks eliminate or control cues that trigger unproductive behaviors. They amplify cues that trigger productive behaviors. Example: want to meditate every morning? Place your meditation cushion where you will see it immediately upon waking. The cue prompts action automatically. 2. Simplify actions. Complex actions reduce habit formation. Monks simplify routines to their essence. Write 10 lines in a journal, instead of, write a page about everything I think about. Read 1 chapter, instead of read for 30 minutes and take notes. Simplicity ensures compliance and strengthens momentum. 3. Reinforce with rewards. Habits need reinforcement. Monks use intrinsic rewards. Calmness after meditation. Clarity after focused work. Satisfaction after completion. External rewards are secondary. Internal reinforcement is permanent. The power of micro-habits. Big changes intimidate. Small habits accumulate. Monks understand the principle of tiny gains. 5 minutes of meditation daily. 1 push-up each morning. Writing 1 paragraph. 1 focused work block. Small victories compound invisibly. Over weeks and months, they create unstoppable momentum. Keystone habits. The foundation of discipline. Some habits affect multiple areas of life simultaneously. Monks call these keystone habits. Examples: morning stillness or meditation, physical exercise, early wake-up time, daily reflection. Keystone habits strengthen identity, self-control, focus, and energy. When you anchor these into your life, other habits follow naturally. How to make habits stick like monks do. Anchor habits to existing routines. Meditation immediately after brushing teeth. Journaling after breakfast. Start small and scale gradually. Too much too soon invites failure. Tiny repetition, short-term intensity. Track progress consistently. Visible progress reinforces behavior. Checklists, journals, or simple marks create accountability. Use environment to automate behavior. Keep water on desk to encourage hydration. Remove junk food to prevent cravings. Leave running shoes out to prompt exercise. Never negotiate with core habit. Treat non-negotiable routines as sacred. Identity aligns with automatic behavior. The role of repetition in neural wiring. Habits are built in the brain through repetition and reinforcement. Every repeated action strengthens neural pathways in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for self-control, planning, and decision-making. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic, effortless, reliable, consistent. Monk-like self-control emerges when habit replaces negotiation. Overcoming habit resistance. Resistance is natural. The brain resists change. This is normal and temporary. Strategies monks use. Start with the smallest possible version of a habit. Focus on consistency over perfection. Observe urges without reacting. Repeat daily no matter how small the action. Resistance diminishes each time you act despite it. The identity shift through habit mastery. Habits define identity. Monks do not see themselves as trying, they are disciplined. I meditate daily. I am a meditator. I exercise consistently. I am someone who honors my body. I write every day. I am a writer. Identity aligns with repetition. Behavior follows naturally. How momentum multiplies discipline. Once habits are entrenched, momentum begins. Each completed habit fuels the next. Completing a morning routine strengthens focus for work. Completing work tasks reinforces self-respect and confidence. Confidence reinforces consistency. This creates a positive feedback loop. Laziness is crowded out. Discipline becomes effortless. Habits protect against laziness. Monks do not rely on bursts of energy to act. They rely on systems of habit that operate below conscious effort. Even when tired, distracted, or unmotivated, morning meditation still happens. Focused work still occurs. Exercise and movement still happen. Habit automation is the ultimate defense against procrastination and laziness. Practical daily habit exercise. Identify one keystone habit to focus on for the next 30 days. Simplify it to its essence. Start tiny. Anchor it to an existing routine. Track daily completion. Observe urges and discomfort without yielding. Celebrate consistency, not perfection. Repeat. Each day compounds into profound self-control and momentum. Conclusion. Discipline without struggle. Monks do not fight their habit. They build systems, simplify actions, and repeat with precision. Discipline becomes automatic, calm, and unstoppable. Laziness has no space to exist. Chapter 7. Energy is Discipline. How monks harness the body to strengthen the mind. Discipline is often thought of as a purely mental skill. You may have been told, just will yourself to do it, or push harder. But willpower is a finite resource. Motivation fluctuates. Focus can fade. Without sufficient energy, even the most determined individual will struggle to act consistently. Monks understand a crucial principle. The mind and body are inseparable in the cultivation of self-control. Mental strength without physical energy is brittle. Physical energy without mental direction is wasted. Discipline arises when the two are aligned. This chapter explores how monks master their energy, and how you can use the same strategies to make self-control effortless. Why most people mismanage energy. Modern life is energy draining by design. Endless notifications, multitasking, stress, and constant stimulation create chronic fatigue. People attempt to compensate by drinking coffee, sugar, or relying on short bursts of adrenaline. This creates cycles of energy spikes and crashes. The result: difficulty starting tasks, increased procrastination, reduced focus, heightened susceptibility to impulse. Laziness is rarely lack of desire, it is lack of usable energy. Monks train the body to provide a consistent, reliable energy baseline. When energy is stable, the mind obeys easily. The body as the foundation of self-control. Your nervous system controls everything: thoughts, emotions, and impulses. When your body is depleted, your brain perceives effort as risk, discomfort as unbearable, and temptation as irresistible. Monks treat the body as the foundation for discipline. They optimize it through sleep, nutrition, movement, breath control. Each element contributes to steady energy, emotional regulation, and mental clarity. Sleep, the non-negotiable pillar. Sleep is the single most underestimated aspect of discipline. Most people treat it as negotiable. Monks do not. Why sleep is essential for self-control. Decision-making. Sleep restores prefrontal cortex function, the brain's control center. Impulse resistance. Tired brains succumb more easily to cravings and distractions. Mood stability. Chronic sleep deprivation increases irritability, stress, and mental resistance. Energy replenishment. Physical and cognitive energy both depend on restorative sleep cycles. Monk principle: protect sleep as sacred. Make it non-negotiable. Prioritize it above convenience. Nutrition, fueling mental strength. The monk approach to food is deliberate simplicity. Balanced macronutrients for sustained energy. Minimal processed sugar to avoid energy spikes and crashes. Hydration as a constant practice. Why nutrition matters. Brain function depends on glucose regulation. Stable energy reduces emotional reactivity. Hunger and blood sugar swings increase impulsive behavior. Every time you eat mindlessly or rely on junk food, you sabotage discipline. Movement, the engine of energy. Monks understand that physical activity is not optional, It is a prerequisite for mental clarity. Movement benefits self-control by increasing blood flow to the brain, releasing endorphins that stabilize mood, reducing stress hormones that weaken focus, strengthening the body to endure discomfort. Even short, consistent practices, walking, stretching, calisthenics, create a nervous system better able to resist impulses. Chapter 8: The Mindset of Obedience. How Monks Build Mental Resilience. Discipline is not simply about doing what you want when you feel motivated. It is about doing what must be done regardless of emotion, fatigue, or temptation. Monks understand this principle deeply. Their mental strength is not built on bursts of willpower or fleeting inspiration. It is cultivated through obedience to principle, structure, and identity. This chapter explores how to train your mind to become resilient, unshakable, and naturally disciplined, creating monk-like self-control in every area of life. Why most people fail mentally. The average person believes that self-control is a choice made moment by moment. They rely on motivation, willpower, external encouragement. This is a mistake. Both motivation and willpower are finite and unreliable. When life introduces fatigue, stress, or distraction, the untrained mind collapses. Tasks are avoided. Laziness appears. Resistance wins. Monks do not rely on emotion. They rely on mental conditioning and identity alignment. The mental framework of obedience. Obedience does not mean blind submission. It means aligning every action with a higher standard or principle, even when resistance arises. Key components. Identity alignment. You act according to who you are, not how you feel. Internal standards, rules for behavior that are non-negotiable. Delayed gratification, choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. When these principles are internalized, your mind no longer wavers. Laziness cannot gain traction. Training the mind with discipline exercises. Monks use deliberate exercises to strengthen mental resilience. Examples include controlled stillness, sitting quietly for extended periods, observing thoughts without reacting. Delayed action, pausing before reacting to impulses, allowing clarity to guide response. Small discomfort challenges, choosing mild challenges daily to condition tolerance for discomfort. These exercises create neural patterns of restraint, observation, and delayed reaction, strengthening self-control at a subconscious level. How identity shapes mental resilience. Your behavior follows your identity. This is non-negotiable. If you see yourself as lazy, your brain interprets avoidance as normal. If you see yourself as disciplined, your brain treats action as natural, even when uncomfortable. Monks consciously cultivate an identity of discipline, focus, and calm authority. This alignment makes resistance weaker and mental effort lighter. The role of perspective in self-control. Resilient minds view challenges differently. Obstacles become opportunities for growth. Discomfort is interpreted as training, not punishment. Temporary failures are feedback, not identity statements. This perspective reduces the emotional weight of tasks, allowing disciplined action without inner conflict. Mental friction and how to reduce it. Friction occurs when your environment, thoughts, or emotions are misaligned with your goals. Monks reduce friction by simplifying environment, predeciding actions, routines, controlling exposure to distractions. Reducing friction means less energy is required to act, making discipline feel natural and effortless. The power of non-negotiables. Monks identify core non-negotiables, actions or practices that must happen daily. Examples: morning meditation, focused work blocks, physical exercise, journaling or reflection. Non-negotiables remove inner debate. When a behavior is essential to identity, resistance diminishes. Emotional mastery as discipline. Emotions are signals, not commands. Laziness often arises when emotions are misinterpreted as imperative. Monks practice observing emotional reactions without immediate response. acknowledging discomfort without yielding to it, acting according to principle rather than feeling. This creates calm authority over impulse and emotion, essential for mental resilience. The habit of mindful action. Every action can reinforce discipline. Monks practice mindful engagement, eating consciously, moving with purpose, working with undivided attention. Mindful action reinforces identity and strengthens the mind's capacity for self-control. Even mundane tasks become training opportunities, building long-term mental strength. Mental resilience is not a sprint. It is a process. Daily practice. Small acts of discipline accumulate over time. Consistency over intensity. Focus on sustainable habits rather than bursts of effort. Reflection. Evaluate actions and adjust strategies based on experience. Embracing discomfort. Treat challenge and resistance as tools for growth. Through repetition, consistency, and principle-driven action, laziness loses its grip. The mind becomes naturally obedient, calm, and unshakable. Practical exercise. Daily mental conditioning. Identify a minor impulse you normally obey. Pause for 90 seconds before acting. Observe the urge without judgment. Act only if aligned with your chosen principle. Repeat daily, progressively increasing duration and difficulty. Over time, your ability to resist impulsive action strengthens. Discipline becomes automatic, effortless, and identity-aligned. Conclusion. The mind as your greatest asset. Monk-like self-control is born in the mind first. The body, environment, and habits follow. When your mental framework is strong. Laziness is temporary, not identity. Resistance becomes manageable. Focus becomes natural. Discipline becomes effortless. Chapter 9, From Discipline to Mastery, Turning Consistent Action into Result. Discipline alone does not create mastery. Motivation alone does not create result. Focus alone does not create achievement. What transforms a person from average to unstoppable is consistent, deliberate action over time. Monks understand this principle deeply. Mastery is a byproduct of persistent, structured effort, aligned with identity and purpose. This chapter explores how to take all the discipline-building strategies covered so far, stillness, focus, habit, energy management, and mindset, and apply them in a way that produces measurable, lasting result. The myth of productivity. Most people believe productivity is about doing more. Monks understand that true productivity is about doing what matters, fully and consistently. Multitasking, scattered attention, and reactive behavior do not produce results. They produce motion, confusion, and burnout. Discipline without direction is wasted effort. Mastery requires choosing the right task, performing them with full presence, repeating over time. The principle of compound action. Every action builds upon previous actions. Monks leverage this principle naturally. Small, deliberate steps compound over weeks, months, and years into extraordinary outcomes. One page written each day becomes a book. One workout completed consistently builds a strong, resilient body. One focused hour of learning daily creates expertise. Compound action is the engine of long-term achievement. Laziness disrupts it. Discipline strengthens it. Why planning is essential. Even monks use structure to maximize result. They plan not for micro-efficiency alone, but for alignment of actions with purpose. Effective planning requires clear goals, defined priorities, time-blocked routines, environment designed to reduce friction. Without planning, effort is scattered. With planning, discipline produces tangible result. Daily systems over motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Systems are unstoppable. Monks create systems that automatically guide behavior. Morning rituals anchor the day. Predefined work blocks ensure deep focus. Environment removes distractions. Accountability, internal or external, reinforces consistency. Systems reduce reliance on fleeting motivation and emotional energy. The discipline of feedback and adjustment. Mastery requires reflection. Monks do not blindly repeat habits, they evaluate. What worked? What resisted progress? How can the system be improved? Feedback loops refine action. Discipline without reflection can solidify inefficiency. Reflection turns effort into smart effort. Momentum as a force multiplier. Once small consistent actions are established, momentum begins. Momentum reduces resistance to new tasks, builds confidence and energy, accelerates achievement, strengthens identity alignment. The key is starting small, consistent, and deliberate. Once the cycle begins, inertia favors discipline over laziness. How monks avoid burnout. Consistency does not mean overexertion. Monks balance intense focus periods, restorative breaks, recovery rituals, energy management, nutrition, movement, sleep. Discipline without recovery leads to collapse. Sustainable action comes from smart, rhythmic effort, not relentless force. Turning effort into habitual mastery. Monks transform disciplined action into a lifestyle. The process is simple but profound. Identify core actions aligned with goals. Perform them consistently. Anchor them into identity. Observe progress. Refine methods. Repeat without negotiation. Over time, mastery emerges. Laziness cannot thrive where action is habitual and identity aligned. The role of mindful attention in result. Every monk-like action is fully present. They do not act passively or half-heartedly. Mindfulness ensures maximum efficiency, awareness of subtle adjustments, prevention of wasted effort, strengthen neural pathways for focus and self-control. Full presence transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. Resisting resistance. Even with systems, energy, and habits, resistance will appear. Monks train to respond differently. Recognize resistance as natural. Label urges without acting. Use identity-aligned action to override inertia. Keep movement consistent regardless of feeling. Consistency wins where inspiration fails. Practical exercise. Applying discipline for real result. Select one high-impact area to focus on for 30 days. Define clear, measurable actions aligned with your goals. Create a small, structured routine for daily execution. Track completion and reflect weekly. Adjust environment and methods to remove friction. Observe results over time and celebrate compound progress. Discipline transforms effort into results only when applied consistently, strategically, and mindfully. Identity, the silent driver of achievement. When action aligns with identity, effort becomes automatic. Resistance diminishes. Laziness loses authority. Monks do not wait to feel disciplined. They become the person who acts consistently. Identity drives behavior, not emotion or circumstance. Conclusion: mastery is the result of discipline applied consistently. Laziness is never permanent. Motivation is never required when systems, habits, focus, energy management, and identity alignment are in place. Mastery is not a secret, a talent, or luck. It is the inevitable outcome of disciplined, consistent action over time. Chapter 10: Emotional Mastery. How monks stay calm, clear, and unstoppable. Discipline is not merely about action. It is also about emotional control. The average person struggles not because they cannot act, but because emotions dictate their choices. Stress, frustration, boredom, anxiety, and irritation often overwhelm rational thought and make even simple tasks feel unbearable. Monks approach emotions differently. They do not suppress them, nor do they act impulsively in response. They observe, understand, and choose actions aligned with principle and purpose. Emotional mastery is the missing link between discipline and effortless self-control. This chapter explores how to manage emotions like a monk, transforming mental turbulence into calm, deliberate action. Why emotions derail discipline. Emotions are powerful signals, but they are not commands. Most people mistakenly obey every surge of anger, fear, or desire. Common patterns include procrastinating when feeling overwhelmed, overeating or indulging cravings when stressed, abandoning tasks when bored or frustrated. Each response strengthens the habit of emotional reaction, weakening self-control. Laziness thrives on emotional surrender. Monks interrupt this cycle by cultivating awareness and choice. The observer mind, creating space between emotion and action. The first step in emotional mastery is creating a gap between stimulus and response. Monks practice noticing emotional surges, labeling them internally. This is anxiety, this is irritation. Observing without immediate reaction, acting according to principle, not feeling. This small gap, the observer mind, is where discipline resides. The role of stillness in emotional control. Stillness is the monk's tool for regulating the nervous system. Sitting quietly for even a few minutes reduces sympathetic overdrive, fight or flight response, lowers cortisol levels, strengthens the prefrontal cortex responsible for rational decision-making, reinforces patience and calm presence. Over time, stillness trains the brain to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Why emotional awareness reduces laziness. When you understand your emotional triggers, you stop being at their mercy. Steps to increase emotional awareness. Track moods daily. Identify triggers for procrastination, avoidance, or indulgence. Practice observing urges without reacting. Awareness alone reduces the power of emotional impulses over behavior. Laziness loses authority when the mind sees the root cause of resistance clearly. Delayed response, the secret weapon of self-control. Emotional mastery is strengthened through delayed response. Pause before reacting to frustration, anger, or temptation. Count breaths or seconds before deciding. Act only if aligned with your chosen identity and purpose. The mind learns that immediate reaction is unnecessary, and self-control becomes automatic. Reframing emotional discomfort. Monks view discomfort not as a punishment, but as training for resilience. Boredom is an opportunity to practice focus. Frustration is a cue to strengthen patience. Temptation is a chance to reinforce identity. Fatigue signals the need for energy management. Every uncomfortable emotion becomes a tool to deepen discipline rather than a barrier. How meditation strengthens emotional regulation. Meditation is not merely relaxation, it is deliberate brain training. Benefits for emotional mastery include increased awareness of thoughts and feelings, strengthened attention and presence, reduced impulsivity, enhanced stress resilience, clearer decision-making. Even 10 minutes daily rewires the mind for calm, deliberate action. Managing social and environmental triggers. Emotional mastery extends beyond the internal mind. Monks carefully manage their environment and interactions, limiting exposure to negative or distracting influences, designing spaces for calm and focus, practicing non-reactivity in conversations, choosing relationships that reinforce, not weaken, self-discipline. Control over your environment reinforces emotional stability. The interplay between energy and emotion. Emotional resilience is linked to physical energy. Fatigue amplifies irritability and impulsivity. Hunger or dehydration weakens patience. Stress disrupts mental clarity. Monks integrate energy management, sleep, nutrition, movement, with emotional training to maintain calm and focus effortlessly. Identity and emotional strength. The mind obeys identity more than feelings. When you see yourself as, I am calm under pressure. I act deliberately, not emotionally. I respond, I do not react. Your emotional system aligns automatically with self-control. Repetition reinforces identity. Laziness cannot exist where identity dictates action. Practical daily emotional mastery exercises. Observe without acting. Identify an emotional impulse and delay reaction for 90 seconds. Label the emotion. Name it internally. This is irritation. This is fatigue. Anchor yourself. Take a few deep breaths or a mindful pause. Act according to principle. Respond based on your long-term goals and identity, not immediate feeling. Reflect daily. Journal or note how emotions influenced actions and decisions. Over time, your nervous system learns calm obedience. Laziness and impulsivity weaken automatically. The ultimate payoff of emotional mastery. When emotions are managed, resistance to action diminishes. Procrastination becomes rare. Focus and attention are steady. Mental clarity and energy are amplified. Discipline becomes effortless because the mind no longer battles itself. Monks are not more talented or motivated, they are emotionally trained. Every decision, task, and habit flows from a calm, centered, and deliberate mind. Conclusion: emotional mastery is the hidden backbone of self-control. Discipline is the product of mind, body, and emotion working in harmony. Habits automate behavior. Energy fuels action. Focus directs attention. Emotional mastery ensures consistent follow-through. When these pillars are aligned, laziness cannot survive. Self-control is no longer a struggle, it becomes your natural state. In the next chapter, we will bring all these elements together in the final strategies for building monk-like self-control in every area of life, so your actions, habits, and mindset operate seamlessly as one unstoppable system. Chapter 11, Integration. Living with monk-like self-control every day. You have journeyed through the foundation of monk-like self-control. Awareness, impulse mastery, focus, habit, energy, mindset, action, and emotional mastery. Each chapter has provided techniques, principles, and practical exercises designed to strengthen your mind, body, and spirit. But knowledge alone is not enough. Discipline is not a collection of strategies, it is a way of life. The final step, the one that separates temporary effort from lasting transformation, is integration. This chapter guides you in weaving all elements together so that self-control is not just a concept or an experiment, but your default state of being. The pillars revisited. Let's summarize the core pillars of monk-like self-control. Impulse mastery. Recognize urges, wait, and act from awareness, not reaction. Unbreakable focus. Train attention to single task fully, consistently, and without distraction. Habit mastery. Build systems and routines that automate discipline, creating momentum that compounds over time. Energy management. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and recovery are your foundation. Without energy, discipline falters. Mindset of obedience. Align identity with disciplined action. Act according to principle, not fleeting emotion. Consistent action and momentum. Apply discipline daily in structured, measurable ways to create real result. Emotional mastery. Observe emotions, label them, and respond deliberately, not impulsively. Each pillar reinforces the others. Mastery arises when they operate in concert, not isolation. Creating your daily system. Monks do not rely on willpower for individual moments of action. They build systems that make discipline inevitable. You can do the same. A monk-like daily system might look like this. Morning ritual, 30 to 60 minutes. Wake up early. Hydrate and stretch. Meditate or practice mindful stillness. Review priorities for the day. Deep work blocks, 90 minutes. Single task on high-impact actions. Eliminate distractions. Anchor attention with mindful breathing. Physical movement, 20 to 60 minutes. Exercise or mindful movement. Stimulate energy and reduce stress. Reflection and journaling, 15 to 30 minutes. Observe successes and resistance. Adjust habits and environment. Reinforce identity and purpose. Evening wind down, 30 to 60 minutes. Review daily accomplishments. Prepare environment and mind for rest. Gentle meditation or stretching. This structure is not arbitrary. It is a repetition of actions aligned with identity and purpose, designed to make discipline effortless. Integrating mind, body, and emotion. Integration requires continuous alignment. Mind. Focus on priorities, single task, reflect on progress. Body. Maintain energy with sleep, nutrition, movement. Emotion. Observe feelings, respond deliberately, maintain calm. When these three work in harmony, you no longer fight yourself. Laziness cannot thrive. Motivation becomes secondary. Effort is automatic. The identity advantage. Identity is the silent engine of transformation. Think in terms of who you are becoming, not what you are trying to do. I am disciplined. I am focused. I am resilient. I am consistent. Every action reinforces identity. Every habit solidifies it. Every deliberate choice strengthens it. Over time, discipline ceases to be a struggle. It becomes you. Momentum and compounding excellence. Integration allows momentum to compound. Habits build habits. Focus reinforces productivity. Energy amplifies action. Emotional mastery reduces friction. Like a river carving a canyon, consistent daily effort shapes your life. The results may feel invisible initially, but the cumulative effect is unstoppable. Practical integration exercises. Daily alignment check. Morning, identify one key priority. Ask, does this action strengthen my identity? Impulse pause practice. For every urge to procrastinate, pause 90 seconds. Observe the urge, then act in alignment with principle. Single task deep work. Choose one critical task. Focus without distraction until complete. Energy audit. Track sleep, food, and movement. Adjust to maintain consistent energy for disciplined action. Evening reflection. Record wins, resistance, and lessons. Celebrate small victories and reinforce identity. These exercises are simple but powerful. Repetition creates automaticity. Automaticity produces momentum. Momentum creates transformation. The monk's secret. The secret is not motivation. It is integration. When habits, focus, energy, mindset, identity, and emotional control operate in harmony, discipline becomes effortless. You do not fight laziness. You are naturally aligned with action. Monk-like self-control is not about perfection. It is about consistency, awareness, and alignment. Each day compounds the last. Each choice strengthens identity. Each habit reinforces purpose. The lifelong journey of self-control. Mastery is never complete. Challenges, fatigue, and temptation will always arise. Monks understand that discipline is a lifelong practice, not a temporary state. They maintain calm authority over the mind and body, integrate all pillars daily, and return to alignment whenever resistance emerges. Your path is the same. Show up consistently, integrate principles into daily life, observe resistance without fear, and reinforce identity. Every day is training. Every action builds momentum. Every choice shapes the person you are becoming. Final words of transformation. Imagine a life where laziness does not derail you. Distraction cannot dominate you. Focus is effortless. Energy is steady. Emotions are calm and manageable. Habits reinforce your identity. Daily action produces measurable result. This is not a fantasy. This is the natural outcome of monk-like self-control. You have learned how to master impulses, how to strengthen focus, how to build and sustain habit, how to manage energy, how to cultivate resilience and obedience, how to transform action into result, how to master emotions, how to integrate all pillars into daily life. Now it is time to apply these principles consistently, shaping your identity, daily actions, and life in alignment with the highest version of yourself. Discipline is no longer a struggle. It is your natural state. Laziness has been replaced with deliberate, calm, unstoppable action. You are no longer reacting. You are mastering. This concludes Stop Being Lazy: How to Build Monk-Like Self-Control.